12 months, 2 ministers, 2 ambassadors, 0 progress. What is the Prime Minister's plan to get our citizens home?
On my 3rd day as Foreign Minister of Canada, Mr. Speaker, on November 23rd, I raised these cases directly with my Chinese counterpart. We have rallied an unprecedented number of partners around the world in support of Canada's position, and we will continue to raise these cases at every opportunity. We will always defend Canadians around the world, Mr. Speaker.
Next week will mark 1 year since 2 Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, were detained in China. Their arrest is considered retaliation for Canada's arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. She's currently under house arrest in Vancouver as the U.S. seeks to extradite her for fraud. This week, she released a blog describing her time spent in her multi-million-dollar home reading books from cover to cover and completing oil paintings. Meanwhile, Kovrig and Spavor remain detained without access to their families or lawyers. Robert Malley is the president and CEO of International Crisis Group. He joins us via Skype from Brussels. Hi, Mr. Malley. Nice to see you. Thanks for making time for us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can I start off by asking if you've, or what you can share about Mr. Kovrig, how he's doing, anything that you've learned?
Well, obviously, a lot of what I've learned is protected by privacy concerns, but I could say this. I mean, you could just imagine the situation of somebody who was picked up for reasons that he still doesn't know, who's held and doesn't have any clue about when he will come out, has been denied access to his family and his lawyers. That would tax even the most resilient person, and Michael is among the most resilient. And so he has shown throughout this period, and to my, to my amazement, that he's strong, he's resilient, he maintains a sense of humor, a sense of perspective, but he is obviously eager to get out. And as I said, doesn't know why he is where he is, and doesn't know at what point the Chinese authorities will let him go free.
Understanding those privacy concerns completely, is there anything that you can tell us about where things are at? How much? I understand we get word that he sees, he gets a consular visit once a month. Is there anything else about the case you can tell us?
Well, that's the main thing. I mean, his main contact with the outside world is with a consular visit, which is roughly once a month, and which is crucial for him to maintain a contact with the consulate, and through the consulate with his loved ones. But I don't need to tell all of those who are watching this that is barely enough. That's still not adequate conditions of detention. He shouldn't be in jail in the first place, but he is being held in extremely difficult conditions. And as I said, he's doing as well as anyone I could imagine doing under those circumstances, but he shouldn't be suffering through them.
Have you had any conversations with Canada's new ambassador to China, Dominic Barton, about the case? I understand as well that he has taken part in at least one of those consular visits now.
Yes, I think 2. But I mean, I knew Ambassador Barton before he became ambassador, and we spoke about Michael's case then, spoke to him about it when he was appointed ambassador, and have had several conversations with him since. I know this at the top of his priorities in terms of dealing with China, and that's of great comfort to his family first and foremost, but to myself and, of course, all of his colleagues at Crisis Group as well.
There's also a new Chinese ambassador to Canada, and he recently spoke to reporters and he referenced the cases. I just want to read you what he said and then get your reaction. He said, "We have a clear message for these 2 cases related to these 2 Canadian citizens, because in addition, our viewers will know, in addition to Mr. Kovrig, Michael Spavor was also detained arbitrarily. For Mr. Kovrig, the ambassador said, he is charged with secretly gathering state secrets and intelligence for foreign forces, and for Mr. Spavor, it's stealing and illegally providing state secrets to foreign forces. So all in all, they are suspected of engaging in activities endangering our national security." That's how he described what they're alleged to have done. What is your response?
Well, first, there haven't been any formal charges. That charge has been publicly aired by some Chinese officials. Again, nothing formal, official from the courts. But we could go back and forth with the Chinese authorities about why they're holding him. But let's be clear. Michael Kovrig had been traveling to China openly, transparently for a long time on behalf of the International Crisis Group. When he went there, he met with Chinese officials. He didn't do anything in secret. He published the results of his work. And he was picked up about 10 days after Ms. Meng was detained on extradition charges from the U.S. I think that's pretty clear from the facts I just stated, why he's in prison, and the reasons that are being given are certainly not the ones that motivated his arrest.
Has there been any indication, or do you have any indication of whether or not there will be formal charges?
I don't know, no, I don't have any indication. Again, our efforts are twofold. Number one, to get him out as soon as possible, but also for as long as he's there to improve his conditions of detention, which should be very different from those they are today.
Has there been any improvement in the conditions? I understand what you're saying, that they're still obviously not good, but has there been over time any improvement?
I think from the initial stage, yes, but certainly, the fact that he hasn't been able to see a lawyer or any member of his family, I think that says enough. And then, to the extent that he was, that we know why he was detained, and that it was in response to the detention of Ms. Meng. She's now free on bail, living under very different conditions. I think nobody is expecting that his conditions will match hers, but there's such a wide gulf that then there's so many basic improvements that could be brought to him that we're hoping that the Chinese authorities would listen to this plea, not just from us, but from many foreign governments who've raised it with Beijing, and improve those conditions.
Some people who have been studying what's happened over the last year between the two countries have argued that likely the Chinese are not going to do anything with the detention of Mr. Spavor and Mr. Kovrig until Meng Wanzhou, Huawei's CFO, something happens in that case. I don't know what that something is, but obviously either she is no longer, I guess, under house arrest. Is that your belief, or do you have some optimism that something else could go on?
I mean, obviously, and I just made that connection. His case is, to some in the Chinese minds, connected to Ms. Meng's case, even though they may not openly admit it. But of course, we have another hope. We have the hope which we've had from the beginning, and which his family has had, which is that China will understand that this case is not just about Canada. It's not just about the international group. It's about the message that China is sending to the rest of the world, to diplomats, because Michael Kovrig was a former diplomat, to think tank and academic types, to business people, all of the kind of people that China would like to attract, with which it would like to engage, because it wants to legitimately play a larger role on the world stage. And by the way, Michael and others like him at Crisis Group have been arguing for that broader engagement with China. And we would hope that they would realize that this sends exactly the wrong message at exactly the wrong time, and that they would do the right thing and let him go.
All right, I'll leave it there. Thanks, Mr. Malley. I really appreciate your time and your insights this evening.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for keeping thinking about Michael.
You bet. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.